Have you ever considered that vulnerability, often seen as a weakness, could be a leader's greatest strength? In the world of leadership, we often envision strong, unflappable figures, the ones who never falter, never show fear, and never let their guards down. This, we're told, is what makes a leader. But what if we were to challenge this traditional view? In recent years, there's been a shift in the way we perceive leadership. The old model of the infallible, impervious leader is slowly fading, giving way to a new kind of leader, a leader who is authentic, who is not afraid to show vulnerability. We're not talking about a leader who is weak or ineffective. Far from it. We're talking about a leader who is strong because they are real, because they are human. This is the power of authentic leadership. There's a common misconception that vulnerability equates to weakness. But vulnerability, in its truest sense, is about openness. It's about being honest with oneself and with others. It's about having the courage to admit when you're wrong, to ask for help when you need it, and to share your feelings, fears, and hopes. This kind of vulnerability can lead to stronger connections and deeper trust. When a leader is open and authentic, they create a safe space for others to do the same. They foster an environment of openness and honesty, of mutual respect and understanding. And in this environment, trust flourishes. And trust, as we all know, is the cornerstone of any successful team or organization. When there's trust, there's engagement. When there's engagement, there's productivity. And when there's productivity, there's success. So let's start rethinking our views on leadership. Let's start seeing vulnerability not as a flaw to be hidden, but as a strength to be celebrated. Let's embrace the power of authenticity. It's time to redefine strength in leadership, not as invulnerability, but as the bravery to open up and be authentic. Imagine a leader, strong and successful, yet always keeping a guard up, never revealing their true self. Let's call this leader Alex. Alex is the CEO of a thriving tech startup. She's achieved extraordinary success, propelled her company to the forefront of the industry, and is admired by many. Her team sees her as a fearless, invincible figure. But behind closed doors, it's a different story. Alex is human, just like everyone else, and she grapples with her own set of challenges, insecurities, and fears. Alex struggles with a sense of isolation. As a leader, she believes she needs to maintain a facade of invulnerability. She feels the weight of her role and the expectations of her team. The pressure to always make the right decisions, to always have the answers, can be overwhelming. Alex fears that showing her vulnerabilities might make her appear weak, and so she hides them, building a wall around herself. As the days turn into months, Alex starts to feel a growing disconnect with her team. They respect her, yes, but there's a sense of distance, a lack of connection. Her team sees her as a leader, not as a person. They see the success, the achievements, but they don't see the struggles, the doubts, the journey. Alex grapples with questions that keep her awake at night. Am I truly leading my team, or am I merely directing them? Am I fostering a culture of trust, or am I creating an environment of fear? Am I inspiring them to be their best selves, or am I pushing them to become mere replicas of my own success? This disconnect starts to impact the team's morale, their engagement, their productivity. There's a sense of dissonance, a feeling that they're merely following orders rather than being part of a shared vision. The team's creativity starts to wane, their motivation starts to falter, their sense of ownership starts to dwindle. It's a difficult realization for Alex. She's been so focused on maintaining her image of strength, of perfection, that she's overlooked the power of authenticity, the strength in vulnerability. She's been so caught up in the race to the top that she's forgotten the importance of the journey, the value of the shared struggle, the beauty of the collective triumph. And so, Alex starts to question her approach to leadership. She starts to wonder if there's a different way, a better way. She starts to ponder on the possibility of vulnerability not as a weakness, but as a strength. She starts to consider the idea of authenticity not as a risk, but as a tool for connection, for trust, for growth. But what if this leader decided to show their vulnerabilities? How would that change their leadership? The day finally came when our leader decided to lower their guard. It was a day just like any other, yet it held the promise of something extraordinary. This tipping point didn't come in the form of a grand gesture, but rather an intimate confession. Our leader, who we'd always seen as an invincible force, shared a personal struggle. A struggle that was not about business, numbers, or strategy, but about their own self. This was the moment when they chose to embrace their vulnerability, to show us that they too were human. The transformation was not immediate, nor was it easy. It took courage to break down those walls, to let us see them in a different light. But as they did, something remarkable happened. The more our leader exposed their vulnerability, the more we saw their authenticity. They were no longer a distant figure, but someone we could relate to, someone we could understand. This change didn't just affect our leader, it affected all of us. It transformed the way we interacted with each other, the way we worked, the very fabric of our team. We began to understand that it was okay to be vulnerable, to not know everything, to sometimes need help. We began to trust each other more, to feel safe in expressing our thoughts and feelings. This trust wasn't built on perfection, but on authenticity, on the understanding that we were all human, all vulnerable, all in this together. In the end, our leader's vulnerability didn't make them weak, it made them stronger. It made us stronger. It fostered a connection that went beyond the workplace, that extended into our personal lives. We became more than just a team, we became a community, a family. This was the power of vulnerability, the power of authentic leadership. This was the transformation that took place when our leader decided to lower their guard. And this is the transformation that can take place in any team, in any organization, when a leader chooses to be vulnerable, to be authentic. Our leader discovered that vulnerability wasn't a weakness, but a strength that fostered connection and trust. But it's not just a story. There's science behind the power of vulnerability in leadership. Let's dive in and explore the research that supports this idea. Psychologists and social scientists have been studying vulnerability for years, and their findings are intriguing. You see, vulnerability isn't just about being open about your fears and failures. It's about authenticity. It's about being real, being human. And this authenticity, according to research, is what builds trust and connection. Picture this. You're in a room with a group of people. Everyone's wearing masks, both literally and figuratively. You can't see who they truly are, and they can't see who you truly are. There's a certain level of discomfort, a disconnect. Now imagine if one person takes off their mask, revealing their true self. What happens? Others are likely to follow suit, right? That's the power of vulnerability. It encourages authenticity, and this authenticity fosters connection. But it doesn't stop there. Vulnerability also impacts team dynamics. A study by the Harvard Business Review found that leaders who showed vulnerability were better able to create an environment of psychological safety. This safety allows team members to feel comfortable taking risks, making mistakes, and learning from them. It fosters innovation and creativity. It's the difference between a team that's stuck in the status quo and one that's constantly evolving and improving. Now let's talk about trust. Trust is the foundation of any successful relationship, be it personal or professional. And guess what? Vulnerability is key to building trust. According to research from the University of California, leaders who show vulnerability are seen as more trustworthy. Why? Because when you open up, when you show your human side, people can relate to you. They see that you're not perfect, that you make mistakes just like they do. And this relatability, this shared human experience, is what builds trust. So, what do we have so far? Vulnerability leads to authenticity. Authenticity fosters connection. Connection in turn leads to better team dynamics. And all of this combined builds trust. It's like a chain reaction, with vulnerability as the catalyst. But let's not forget, vulnerability isn't about oversharing or airing your dirty laundry. It's about being real. It's about sharing your experiences and emotions in a way that's genuine and authentic. It's about being brave enough to show your imperfections. And this bravery, this willingness to be vulnerable, is what makes you a stronger leader. So the next time you're in a leadership position, remember the science. Remember the power of vulnerability. Remember that it's not just about you, but about the people you're leading. Show them your true self and watch as they do the same. Foster an environment of authenticity, connection, and trust. Vulnerability, then, is not just a personal trait, but a tool for building stronger, more connected teams. So how can you, as a leader, embrace vulnerability? Well, the first step is to accept that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's a natural part of being human, and it's not a sign of weakness, but of strength. Acknowledging this fact is the first step towards embracing vulnerability. Now let's delve into some practical strategies. The first one is to practice authenticity. Authenticity is about being true to yourself, your values, your beliefs. It's about being open, honest, and transparent, even when it's uncomfortable or difficult. It's about showing up as you are, without masks or pretenses. This authenticity fosters trust, connection, and respect among those you lead. Next, let's talk about empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. It's about putting yourself in someone else's shoes, feeling what they're feeling. This emotional connection is pivotal for leaders, as it enables them to understand their team better, to respond to their needs, and to create an environment of mutual respect and understanding. And then, there's emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is about recognizing, understanding, and managing our own emotions and the emotions of others. It's about being aware of how your actions and decisions affect others. It's about managing conflict, handling stress, and navigating complex social interactions. Emotional intelligence is a vital skill for leaders, as it enables them to lead with empathy, compassion, and understanding. The last strategy is to create a safe and open environment. This means creating a space where people feel comfortable expressing their thoughts, feelings, and concerns. It's about fostering a culture of openness and transparency, where everyone feels valued and heard. And remember, these strategies are not one-time actions. They are habits that need to be practiced and cultivated over time. They require commitment, patience, and perseverance. Embracing vulnerability as a leader is not an easy task. It requires courage, authenticity, and a willingness to step out of your comfort zone. But the rewards are immense. It fosters trust, connection, and mutual respect. It creates an environment where everyone thrives. Remember, it doesn't show weakness to be vulnerable. It shows courage and authenticity. Let's recap on the journey we've taken today. We've been exploring a different perspective on leadership, one that is often overlooked: vulnerability as strength. We began with the power of authentic leadership, where we highlighted the importance of leaders being true to themselves, their values, and their vision. This authenticity helps leaders to connect with their teams on a deeper level, building trust and fostering an environment where everyone feels valued and heard. We then delved into the story of the vulnerable leader. This narrative showed us that even those in positions of power can experience vulnerability. In fact, it's in these moments of vulnerability that leaders often find their greatest strengths. It's about being open about your struggles, not to elicit sympathy, but to show others that it's okay to be human, to have weaknesses, to make mistakes. It's in these moments that leaders become relatable and teams feel more connected. The transformation section took us through the journey of a leader who embraces vulnerability. We saw how this shift in perspective can lead to profound changes in the way a leader interacts with their team. They become more approachable, more understanding, and more empathetic. This fosters a culture of trust and collaboration, where everyone feels safe to express their ideas and concerns. Next, we delved into the science of vulnerability, where we learned that vulnerability is not just a state of mind, but a biological response. When we are vulnerable, our brains release oxytocin, a hormone that promotes bonding and trust. This is why when leaders show vulnerability, it naturally fosters a stronger connection with their team. In the section on embracing vulnerability, we explored strategies for how leaders can open themselves up to vulnerability. It's not about airing all your dirty laundry, but about showing that you too are human. It's about admitting when you don't have all the answers and being open to learning from others. It's about acknowledging your mistakes and showing how you've learned from them. Remember, vulnerability is not about weakness. It's about strength. It's about the courage to be yourself, to be open, and to connect with others on a deeper level. It's about building trust and creating an environment where everyone feels valued and heard. So the next time you think about leadership, remember, vulnerability is not a weakness but a strength. It's the key to building trust and connection. It's the power of authentic leadership.